Thank you, Aisha. And so welcome to my office and my annual 1.5 hour chat with your predecessors, and now you, facilitated of course by Aisha and the rest of the team. What I start with is this introduction by the class, and probably interviewed in my life maybe nearly 15,000 people, maybe more, 20,000 people. And what that process has enabled me to do is, based on how people present themselves when they talk, I am able to learn a lot about them. And so what the introduction does is that it kind of gives me an insight into you and your class dynamic. And it's good to know who you are, just as you know who I am. But beyond that, it helps me focus our discussion on the things that I think are going to make the most impact on you over maybe an hour and a bit. So let me start by asking one question. Why are you called energetic? Anybody wants to have it stab? Anybody?
Okay, thank you, sir. I think one of the reasons is high engagement.
High engagement.
Yes, so nobody comes and meets us and goes back the same.
So somebody else should explain what high engagement means. No, lady. High engagement, and then you can speak, you can explain what you want to explain, but yes. I want to know what high engagement.
So the high engagement is that in this class we have diverse professions, and it looks like everybody has no small one thing, maybe little, about everything, which is very interesting when you're having conversation with other people. So I think that's why we have high engagement. And then there's the zeal to learn. We want to hear what our facilitator is saying all the time, and then we also want to contribute. We have different perspective.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody with another perspective on engagement? Okay.
So firstly, I think is from the point of the fact that we're very young, there's a lot of young people here. And so because of that, we don't hold back to engage people. So rather than overthink a lot of things because of maturity. So we would not overthink it. If there's something we would want to ask, we're definitely going to ask. If there's anything we think we want to say, we're also going to say it. And I'm sure when you ask that for questions, you would get the real meaning of our engagement.
Okay. One more hand behind the lady. Don't talk too long.
I'll try my best. It's the buzz and the intensity in the passion through which we channel our opinion. We are not so conventional to think that because you are high up there, we won't be able to express our thought and sentiments. So I think that's why we're seen as energetic.
Okay. I'm better educated. I think it's consistent with your age demographic. You express yourselves in an energetic manner, and that's perfectly fine. So who here has read about Lateef Jakande? Who at the back can tell me about Lateef Jakande? I know for a fact that I don't think any of you was alive when he was governor. Well, is there anybody here who was alive when he was governor? Okay. All right. Okay, so you want to tell me about Lateef Jakande? Okay, fine.
One thing I would want to say about Lateef Jakande is the first civilian governor of Lagos State, and he has the roadmap, more like a plan of how Lagos is supposed to be. And when we met with the deputy governor, he told us that the metro line that is supposed to move around the whole of Lagos State, Lateef Jakande had it already. So I think that's one thing I would want to say about it.
Okay, so let's pause there. There's a reason why I asked. Who knows about his legacy? Who wants to comment on his legacy? No, somebody else now. Behind. Somebody behind.
Okay, so one thing I learned about him is his passion for education and how he was very big on converting spaces into schools and ensuring that, okay, school was not just the morning, afternoon, and evening session that people had. Everybody can access, schools and education. That's something I...
No, explain what you mean by school is not morning, afternoon, and evening.
Okay, so I, from what I got previously, people go to schools like either in shifts. Like there was a morning shift, afternoon shift, and then evening shift.
Previously?
Before his time. One of the things he did was to change that narrative, or change that system, basically.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me tell you my view on the questions that I asked. So the first question I asked was that which of you was born whilst he was governor? And, well, it's possible that somebody will say yes, but I believe that your rules for admission do not allow that. But I was around. So, and I was a student. And so, as a result, therefore, I can answer the next question from my perspective. What is his legacy? And I would do it from the lens of Lagos and citizens of Lagos, because it may not necessarily be shared by citizens of other states outside Lagos. Okay. In many respects, he had a huge impact, and he's very well remembered, particularly from the perspective of a grassroots citizen of the state. Okay. He was also very disruptive. And so for those of you who speak to energetic, it may not necessarily be expressed because you are young, because he wasn't young when he was the governor of Lagos. He didn't come in as a young governor. But yet he was very energetic, he was very, very sprightly, very spirited. But I can tell you one thing, his legacy is not about perfection. So he didn't build great schools. When I say he didn't build great schools, it wasn't like he built Furabe College or St. Gregory's College or if you get my point, okay? And yet he was loved and he was remembered. And so why do you think so? You said education. What is it that he did in education? Why do you think he was loved? If he was, okay, fine. Yeah.
I think it was more about the impact that he had in the education space, meaning that school was no longer for the elite.
Okay.
So it was more about the impact that he had in the education space. So it made it seem like school was no longer for only the elite, but the children of the common men could go to school, because it turned spaces like into these pen shared schools that they could all go to at the same time without a child being left out.
Okay. So clearly, all right, we are narrowing it down to his legacy was free education. Okay. Not necessarily quality education. Okay. Not necessarily kind of elite type schools, but certainly free. And it means that a lot of people found that this was life-changing. And irrespective of how disruptive the policies towards free education would be, and they were quite disruptive, every decision is a trade-off. If you want everybody to be able to go to school, it means that something is going to have to give, at least in the early days. And so it's a trade-off. And you know, I thought about it when I thought about his legacy, and I said to myself, which is better? Allowing somebody who would never really probably have access to education in their millions, the opportunity for a life-changing experience, which education is all about, versus protecting the elite nature of the structure of education at the time, you know, as a leader you come in, okay, and getting the benefits that come with elite education. What do you think? What do you think?
So for me, I think that it's better that everybody has access to education, because I think there's a conversation we've had around the fact that if he leaves those other people without education, all of the elite children going to school, all of the infrastructure is going to build would be ruined by those uneducated folks.
Okay. Is there anybody else who has a contrary view? If you have a contrary view. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, I think that okay, I don't want to sound like Gen Z, but it makes a lot of sense to, you know, standardize the existing system. When you standardize the existing system, you have raised the bar so high, such that it's just like trying to, you know, for example, it's just like building a football pitch. If you build a five-a-side pitch, yeah, you are only going to have at most 10 footballers on the pitch. But if you build a standard football pitch, you're not just going to have 22 people, but you're going to have 22 more athletic
Okay, put
players.
that analogy to practical effect, because you're kind of arguing contrary to his case.
Exactly.
That's what you're meant to be doing.
Yes,
so
sir.
explain it.
So when you invest in standard education, yeah, what it means is that you are able to you're building a better future, a more sustainable future. For example, another context.
Okay, so you are saying that the trade-off was that the education quality wasn't standard.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, let's end there. Okay. So this is not, I'm deliberately doing, asking you to speak like this for a reason. This is not a motivational talk. This time, I want to speak to you about leadership and you as leaders. And with it's an emphasis on public leadership versus private sector leadership. You see, in the difference between public leaders and what I would call, or public sector leaders, or public sector leadership and private sector leadership is that, particularly for profit, is that you are judged by the economic value you create. So your trade-offs are always, in a sense, binary. It's not, your trade-offs are actually binary in the sense that you are trading off something for the opportunity to create economic value. But public leadership doesn't work that way, as you have seen. Your trade-offs sometimes could present themselves in a binary fashion, okay, like the private sector, but rarely. Because the decisions you make are not numbers. Every number is actually a human being. So when I say I'm going to pay a dividend and I am the board of a company, a bank, you could say that that dividend is going to be used by a family to meet expenses, etc., etc., etc. But that dividend is just simply a matter of giving people economic value to make choices on. When I say I'm going to give you education versus I'm not going to give you education, the implications of that decision are completely different. And so, when I listened to you introduce yourselves, I saw a strong element of comfort in economic value creation. I can see that. I mean, you've spent most of your lives resolving what that means and how you can do it and so on. But by coming to the Lateef Jakande Academy, it implies that you are ready to answer questions around public leadership and whether truly you want to invest your lives in public leadership. The first thing, obviously, is as we are talking, you can see that, and it's the reason why Elon Musk went to government. You can see that despite the fact God has blessed him somehow with an ability to start and build businesses that people are ready to invest in and give a valuation that makes him one of the richest men the world has ever known. He clearly sees that, or believes that, government has powers that will go way beyond any $1 trillion net worth he can have. He recognized that and wanted to go and make his own impact there. And you can now see here that it's not easy to make an impact on lives the same way as it is to make shares go up or pay dividends. And he ran away from the work. Interesting. Now, I think it's difficult to do public work if your beliefs and your belief system is not well formed. Because, you see, the anchor for private work is this value. So you can be a great person in the private sector without any belief system. So if I ask your view on one thing, you're jumping from, but the truth of the matter is that when it comes to creating value, you're ready to, and you know what to do, and you do it very well. Do you get my point? Okay? But that is not what you're meant to be taught at Lateef Jakande Academy, or Lee Kuan Yew School of Government, or the Blavatsky School of Government, or if you work, for instance, with the Aigboje Foundation and what we try to get people to understand, because that is the only way we are going to create more Lateef Jakandes. Now, you see, the greatest public leaders come from one clear belief, which is that anytime you hold office and you are given the authority of public office, it is something called a public trust. And in a public trust, power is always given to be exercised on behalf of others, not yourself, not for the benefit of the holder. Not even should it just be the substance of what you do. The visibility and optics of what you do should clearly also validate that. That's not the private sector. Insofar as I've given you your dividends and your shares have climbed and so on. I mean, yeah, we could talk about good citizenship and so on, and we can talk about a world where, social media, but look, at the end of the day, insofar as I'm not breaking the law, I'm operating within social norms and so on, I am outstanding if I give you economic value as a private sector person, to be honest. And if I give you dignity of labor and all of those things, if I don't make sure that my company helps eradicate COVID-19, I haven't committed any crime. Correct? Uh-huh. But if you are a public leader and COVID-19 comes and you didn't go and catch it on our behalf, then resign. No. Do you see the difference? So, how many of you believe that Nigerians trust public institutions today? If you do, raise your hand. Aha. Aha. So, in other words, okay, very few Nigerians, by implication, would trust public leaders. I'd even say, I'm not talking about the institutions. You have institutions that are steeped in what I would call democratic politics, but most public institutions have nothing to do with democracy. They are there. I mean, if you're somebody says La Cepa, somebody says, LASMA and so on. People will be elected and come and go and so on, but has nothing to do with the public trust that you hold. Okay, so you could find yourself in any of these offices, and you don't necessarily have to be Lateef Jakande, but you are still held accountable the same way he was. And so the reason why so many people know Lateef Jakande and reverence him, okay, actually has not that much to do with the value created, but more to do with his beliefs, his belief system. And they trust his belief system. However negative the consequences may be in the long term. Now, I'm not selling you negative impact. No, we'll come there. But I'm saying to you that there are not many public servants that we will attach the name to an academy. Because the credibility to do it is, people will just lob stones at it and it can't stand. So what I'm telling you is that belief cannot be taken away from the leadership. And so why did people believe this man? Why did they think that? Was he popular? He was a populist, okay? A welfarist, yes, okay? But I can tell you that for those of us who went through, I wouldn't think that he was, no. I don't think, he was certainly more popular than many people who have held political office. Because he was a populist, a grassroots person, okay? But my point is, what if he had embarked on the opposite? And Aisha spoke about Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew was the opposite of a Lateef Jakande. The things he came up with were not populist. The people at that time, his people were, Singapore is a creation of a process that was very painful. And it was almost a shock. And they had to fend for themselves on a small coastal sliver of land that didn't have much going for it. And a lot of what you would call the culture at the time, the way the Singaporeans, if you understand the makeup of the ethnic makeup, because it's not one ethnicity, the ethnic makeup was very much like a cross between China, India. No. I'm saying Chinese. If you see a Malaysian, you won't know. But if you see a Chinese, you know, Abi. Okay. If you see an Indian, you know, Abi. So what I want you to understand is, at that time, at the creation of Singapore, right? China and India were not known for anti-corruption. No. They were not known for what I would call, the Singapore, was created very contrary to the culture and the behavior and norms that existed amongst those ethnicities in that space at that time, at that particular time. And so they had to create a Singaporean culture. And what was it about? It was about meritocracy. So you are moving from very strong familial traits, very strong patrimony, okay, to very strong meritocracy. They were not used to that. You are moving from a rule-based system, from a man-no-man system to a rules-based system, zero tolerance. They were not. So I will give you an example. If we said that you'll be jailed if you chew gum in public, okay, how do you think that will go down in Nigeria? Okay, so you have an idea. So that is the point. So it's not about a good people or a bad people. It's just the way we are. Okay, all right. So we are very expressive. Maybe we are very energetic. So it is possible to have popular ideals or popular goals as a public leader, okay? But your trust is not going to come from your populism. Your trust is going to come from what? Your belief system. Okay, that's just one. We are going, okay. So there's a formula. Your belief system is your intent. Now, people will say from your beliefs, I know what this person stands for. Okay? All right? And we've agreed that it could be popular, it could be unpopular. Let's leave that. Okay. Is your intent enough? Okay. So, what else do you think they will look at? How will you, when you look at the action, there are two things that, so you said actus reus. Reus is the mind, actus is the, okay? How many of you are lawyers here? Okay, so, mens rea, okay? And when you look at the action, okay, what are the two things you are thinking about? Okay, all right. So, consistency, if there is consistency, all right, in your actions. Okay. So, intent, consistency, but there's something else. One last thing that leads to trust. Motive is your intent. Okay. So, somebody said something? Somebody said something else. Okay. So, competence and results could be deemed the same thing. Because how do you know about whether somebody is competent or not? Okay, but Okay, so intent plus competence plus consistency equals trust. So, I can assure you that public trust is not gained out of branding and communication. If you like, blast the money, blast the money. If you like, spend trillions of dollars, as you know, right? It is the combination of your intent, your competence, and your consistency. And people will judge by themselves. Branding and communications can win you an election, but it's not going to win you public trust. So now let's bring this back to you guys. Is your intent today as a catalyst consistent with, let's say we open you up or we give you power? That's the best way of opening you up. And we then look at you. What will we conclude your intent is? And in the very first assignments that you guys have undergone, your results, what do they suggest your competence is? And as you went on to a second assignment, if I was to watch you as a fly on the wall, and I watch the things you did in your first assignment and the things you are doing in your second assignment, do I see a consistency in you, or do I see somebody who is yet to find their bearings? Now, this discussion we are having is not a critical analysis of you as a person. This discussion is for you to understand how public trust is built up. And in other words, how you as leaders have to build yourself up. And I don't think that our leaders in the public sector invest anything like the amount of time and effort that is required to build public trust. And I hope that you will not fall victim to it. Now, part of the reason why you shouldn't is that this academy, where the investment in you gives you the opportunity to live amongst each other for 1 year with access to life-changing experiences, on-the-job experiences, speaking to people who have experience that would add so much value to you, and so on. The odds are certainly very much skewed in your favor to develop yourselves. And let me tell you something. If you think about those who perhaps you have come across in the Lagos State Service, public service, and ask yourself, if this individual had access to the same opportunity I have today, how much more of an effective public leader would that person be? And so, as you ask yourself that question and you answer, you then see that actually, by virtue of the fact that you have earned this privilege, which you have earned, you also carry a responsibility. And that's why I agree to talk to the class every year to make sure that in my own 1.5 hours that I spend with you, I have planted seeds of the acceptance that will make you accept that responsibility. The productivity that we seek from our public leaders actually is only going to come when they accept the responsibility. And so many refuse to. Not maybe because our people are bad, but just simply because maybe they don't have the opportunity to go through this type of academy that teaches them responsibility. And indeed, actually, I'll tell you something. Public leadership tends to be a process where these seeds are sown in school, primary school, secondary school, and then the individual begins to make choices. And it's not necessarily going to an elite school that makes you a public leader, but I can tell you that going to a great school helps. By grade school, I'm simply saying schools that have people passionate like Aisha is as teachers, and who recognize the importance of public trust. That's why we have Boy Scouts. That's why we have Girls Guides. That's why we have civic responsibility. All of this is to prepare individuals for the responsibility of leading others. So let me tell you something. Do you think Nigerians are ready to go to war for their country in the same way as countries where the public trust is high? Okay. So, which of these three do you think is weakest in our public sector today? Intent, competence, or consistency? I think that I share your belief that I think intent, the reason why is that, not in that sense, that intent is the thing that causes the investment in self that develops your competence and develops your consistency. But if you were to say all three in equal measure, I would also say yes. But then, let's look at what our real problem is. Broken promises over, say, 40 years. Because if you think about our post-independence experience, 60 to 70, let's even say 75. If I was to ask you to go and search for broken promises, the way you have broken promises today is a completely different level. And by broken promises, I'm simply saying that what is the promise to the people? The promise is about education, health, economic opportunity, security, and so on. Not even, I'm not even saying, look, if we knew when you have power and there's a promise that it comes at 8. If they told you, if without fail, 7-2 in Nigeria we had power, where would we be? All of us would be in it. I mean, that 7-2, everybody in this country, you know that you have power. Okay? My point being, therefore, that actually when I went to school, things were like that. They would tell you when you won't have power. Yes. And you knew when you would have power. So my point is that doesn't mean that there's there was power 24/7, right? Okay. But the issue was that there was almost there was an understanding that you have to fulfill some promises. And if they made a promise to you that, okay, we are going to go to these Commonwealth Games, or we are going to go to these Olympic Games and bring back one medal, you know that we will bring back one medal. Do you get the point? Okay. All right. So, the problem is, our problem today is that we've broken so many promises that they have scaled faster than the good outcomes. So even when people perform, and it's not like some are not performing, okay? It's not that some don't perform. It's just that the promises, those broken promises have scaled so fast that in our minds there is nothing we are ready to give to those who are delivering. And then another problem is that we exercise authority or we exercise our office. You get into a parastatal or even into the State House of Assembly if it's an electoral office. You exercise your authority through power, but not legitimacy. So what's legitimacy? Obviously how you got there is. But what is legitimacy? How do you... legitimacy comes from your competence, so I'll give you an example. And then So I have, over Christmas, I had events that are relevant to my business reality, but were hosted by myself, and which, required people to step up at very short notice and make significant sacrifice in terms of time. Okay, personal time. Not many, just maybe one or two. And so I recall that one particular person stepped up big time and really contributed to making these events at an inconvenient time go off in very, very, very successful fashion, to the benefit of the ecosystem. But this is events that you can say, to all intents and purposes, are personal. Okay. And then within 30 days, okay, within a 30-day period, having had this tremendous effect on me by this contribution, okay, to the success of these things, I come to an understanding that this person's circumstances have changed, and this person wants maybe what I would term decisions to fall in their favor that have no policy backing. Not necessarily bad, but just no policy backing or no precedent. Okay? And on the strength of my authority and leveraging the fact that perhaps from a visibility standpoint, right, you would have observed that this person has been integral to very successful things within a 30-day time frame. This person quotes me as backing these things that they want to benefit them to their boss. Now, listen. Now, I then recall that the person has told me of these changing circumstances, which means the organization has to take decisions. And I call the boss and I say, see, this person's circumstances have changed. What have you taken steps to act on that basis? Which is, I'm talking about the organization now. So forget, this is now obviously, the organization has to do what the organization has to do. I'm being careful for the person. Okay. But I'm sure you're following the gist. Okay. And then the boss then tells me, oh, no, yes, I've been aware, but this is what the person said, that you said. And I say, I'm very disappointed in you, first of all, for believing this without talking to me. Okay? And then I put the person on, and I just say, what's going on here? Now, I have illustrated this in the context of inherited authority versus legitimacy. So, this authority, okay, that I wield in my capacity within my ecosystem, all right, whether earned or not, all right, is only going to be legitimized by my actions. Are you listening? So, whatever it is I've said, if you know me, so I thought I had spoken enough, I thought I have shown enough examples, right, over my 40 years of organizational, existing in an organization as a professional, that I don't wield my authority in an illegitimate manner. I don't do it. I just don't. I don't at all. There's nobody who has evidence of it, which is why I said leadership is not popularity. I am known for being able to consistently take decisions in a certain way, irrespective of how unpopular the effect is. That is me. But yet, on the strength simply of somebody supporting and contributing in very, very, very great fashion, all right, to something that was to the benefit of the organizations, but linked to me, all right, a decision maker, the boss of that person, told that there's illegitimacy in the use of my authority, actually started to go along with it. So, what did this tell me? That when Lee Kuan Yew says, you just keep doing and doing and doing, and don't stop, because the minute you stop, right, all your inherited authority goes, and the illegitimacy seeks a way to take root. But in our own society, where most leaders have not invested in the legitimacy of their office, there is no root. And that is why the office is so easily compromised. Not necessarily by them, but by the system. So we are all trying to wangle away. We are all trying to wangle away. No, all of us are trying to wangle away around our authority because, right, we want to illegitimize it to our own benefit. It's not even because it's not. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, until in this room, all 30 of you are acting with competence consistently. Not that when there's a crack, small crack here, then, because you helped me, you wrote this outstanding memo by which I won for Nigeria, Bakassi, then because of that now, your child that didn't qualify to enter the academy, put him. Do you get the point now? But it is this that makes great countries. It is this belief and knowledge and understanding that the next generation will enjoy a life, because we know that there is nothing that we are going to do to mortgage that next generation's life. The absence of this is why every succeeding generation now has a worse life than the one before. So, there's a difference between legality and legitimacy. You have power, and yes, I have the legal authority to do what I'm doing, but the legitimacy of it. Authority and credibility, yes, he's a big man, and you know they have all types of acronyms for big men. But is there credibility behind that office? But as I say these things to you, I'm speaking to you. I'm not speaking to the people outside this room. Because those people who are in these positions of authority and who are disappointing us, they could be your brother. Half the time they are your brother or sister, by the way. I tell the tale of two twins, a pair of twins. One goes into the public sector, the other one goes into the private sector. Same intelligence. So it's not intellect. Okay? And the story of the two are completely different, based on the experience and the same blood, same everything. So I mean, you know, I tell everybody that Nigeria will not be great until we create systems that are greater than whatever strong personality we throw. Until then, Nigeria can never be great. We can model around, we can make, but until we create systems that are greater in effect, more durable, more legitimate than strong personalities. However, even if those strong personalities are at the root of the creation of these systems, but the system will pass the test when, irrespective of how strong Aigboje's personality is that led to this formulation of this great system, okay, his personality cannot override it. And you see, because our leaders, and this is why you love Jakande, are still so obsessed by convenience, personal convenience. Very rarely have they acted consistently with principle that earns that public trust. I'm being told that I have to clear out of this preaching mood that I'm in. So what is it that you have to do as an individual? What do you have to learn? I tell people, and I've been, even yesterday or 2 days ago, I told, tell the truth early. Bad news ages badly. Don't let bad news age in your hand. Don't let it age in your hand. Tell it early and dispense with it before, so it's still an infant. Do you get the point? Explain your decisions, not just the outcome. I've given you an example now of explain your decisions, not just the outcome. So this thing that I told you, I remember this story I told you. Somebody was in front of me, coincidentally. I didn't ask the person to leave the room. The person had no business with this issue. Just stay there. I called the person, the boss. Then I called the other, I connected the phone. All of us, so I know that between all three of them, their own version of this thing is going out, no problem now, because I wanted everybody to understand all the different things I've gonna play. And not because of this issue, but to learn from it and let the story start going out. So the reason why every time you must explain the decision is that is the best way to prepare others, so that when they are in your own position, right, they would have the benefit. In fact, actually, maybe because I had the benefit of working with great leaders who explained outcomes and decisions to me. Respect process, even when it slows you down. Irrespective of whatever amount of power I have, I'm never going to say to you, don't, you must, if, so my own is I'll use my power to make you do that thing that you normally do in 6 hours. You will go through every process, you do it in 30 seconds. But there's nothing like, oh, don't do, no. Respect the process always. Separate personal benefit from public authority. Separate personal benefit from public authority. Perception, as I told you, is so important. And institutionalize values so that they outlive you. Charisma is not leadership. Charisma is performance, which is part of the job description, but that's not leadership. So as I speak, I want you to just think about yourself and think about the reality that if you are who I want you to be, you are going to find yourself slowing down promotions and perhaps sometimes finding your own promotion slowed. You are going to lose friends. You are going to experience what Ashake sang when he said, trust is built quietly, but is rewarded late. Sometimes when you are in heaven. So let me tell you something. I will end here because, when you think about public trust and you think about Lateef Jakande, he built it not on great speeches. He built it based on his actions and people observing his actions. Every decision you make, small, every time you deprive yourself and people see you restrain yourself and restrain your power for the benefit of others, that's where the trust comes from. Your daily life, how you live it, that's the leadership. And if then, as a result, people are wowed, fine. But charisma is just the performance. You don't need to have it to. But if you want to be an actor or actress, you can. I'm not saying don't. I mean, if you get my point, if you want to wear a dress, and it's not necessarily flamboyant. If you want to wear dress, wear Jakande cloth, Because that's also, because me, I can start wearing one Nigerian cotton now, wrapper. It's still, and then people say I'm simple. It's still, but I'm telling you, that's performance. But if I want to use it to emphasize my messaging, fine, go ahead. But it's not going to be your messaging. It's not the charisma that is going to earn your trust. It's your actions. I end there. I'm sure we have time for some questions. Quickly. Okay. Let me see. Let me see what it is that they are calling me to. The reason why is that is good to be trusted and to be told about things that only 3 people, no, I exaggerate, only 20 people in the world know about before the rest of the world knows. Yeah, you'll find out. But let me by God's grace. Oh yeah, okay, this is important. So, question.
Just 2 or 3. If you've asked question before, you've spoken before.
Okay, so from the back, all right. No ladies at the back. Okay. That. So and sorry, if you have you spoken before? No. Okay, she hasn't spoken before, and he hasn't spoken before. So at least let's see those 3, and the gentleman in the suit. So the lady with glasses, she's
No, in front.
yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for everything that you said. So my question is, I think it's more of curiosity and where the world is now. I think that it was easy for Lateef Jakande because of where the world was as at then. And the demand were not as much as it is right now. You know, so as a leader, whereby there are like a lot of moving train. Like if you are the governor of Lagos State now, there are many things that you have to tend to. So imagine now with Governor Babatunde, Governor Sanwo-Olu, it's the Teams Plus agenda and it's transportation, but under transportation there's like a lot of problem. And here as a leader, I want to build relevance, I want to be consistent. But it's not going to be easy for me to touch all these parts and be successful at it, you know. So do you think that the people that you are leading, sometimes their demands might be too much for you as a leader, for you to build, for you to answer to all of their questions? And when you are not doing this, even though there is a belief system, there is an intent that you have, because they do not see that intent, is going to affect what it is that you are doing.
Are you a Muslim or a Christian?
I'm a Muslim.
Do you know the story of Moses and the children of Israel and Egypt?
I know a bit of a story.
Do you know the story of the 10 Commandments?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me the story you know of the 10 Commandments. Just tell me what you know about the 10 Commandments.
Okay, so it was that I think they moved from I don't know, they moved from Egypt, they moved somewhere, and then Moses went to pray to God about something, and then God gave him the 10 Commandments, and before he came back...
No, 10 Commandments on what? Gave him the 10 Commandments on what?
Like a rock was, according to it, was written like on a rock.
Okay.
And then he came with it, and then by the time he came back, they were already, like according to what I say, loxing. They were already doing their own thing, and then he got angry, and then he smashed it.
Okay, all right, stop. Okay, so how is that different from today? I'm saying leadership. How is that different from today?
No, really.
Okay.
Now, the 10 commandments in today's terms is your inspired PowerPoint to your team or to your parastatal or to your agency or to your ministry or to your state or to your country. And you now know, okay, you know what to do, okay, and then you find out that, it's not just putting this thing on PowerPoint slides that's going to get it to. And when he smashed it, he expressed frustration, anger, and all the things that come with leadership. And he was saying, you mean after I've taken you out of this land, right? After everything you've seen, right? My legitimacy as a leader is still not enough for you, okay, to follow what I say, okay? I have work to do as a leader. Do you get what I'm telling you?
Yes, yes, I do.
So that leadership conundrum is always going to be there. And this is public trust, but it's a great question you ask, because why did you ask for it if you are not ready to come down the mountain and then see people who are
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So, sir, my question is system specific. So, considering that one of the arms of the foundation is improving the delivery of healthcare, sir, how do we ensure that staff deployment decisions at the primary healthcare level promote or ensure service quality and not disrupt it? Sir, the reason for the question is that I believe the PHC, which is the front line, is the most important of all the healthcare levels, as far as I'm concerned. But I also feel like as much as we're building capacities, providing equipment and all of that, I think we're focused on just one side. Today you have an officer in charge, tomorrow they are transferred. Then the staff transfers, at some point they are going for trainings, and then you have to start all over again with the training, and it's not sustainable. And then patients come to the facilities, they are not well attended to, things are missing, things are not available. So how do we ensure that the decisions that we make in staff deployment in the government, because we are the government, in the public sector, how do we ensure that it does not disrupt service quality?
Nigeria is a story of failed systems, but it's not like the systems fail because Nigerians are difficult. The systems are failing because we haven't spent enough time on them. No, we haven't built the system. So a system is built. Lee Kuan Yew says, look, and it was Obasanjo who told me, President Obasanjo told me, he said, he asked the man, he said, okay, tell me what it is that lies at the back of your. He said, look, we just wrote down 10 things, not more than 10 things. And we said we will keep doing those things and keep doing those things. Every second of the day, we will keep doing those things and keep doing those things and keep doing those things. Those 10 things, and after we would eventually lead with a world-class system. That's what they did. So, just imagine if the rule is nothing is implemented without a policy. Listen carefully, okay? And have you seen what it takes to become president of Singapore? Go and read about it. To become president of Singapore, okay, it means that you, first of all, to become president of Singapore, you submit yourself to the state or prime minister of Singapore. You submit yourself to the state where they are allowed to search everything and know everything about you, everything you've done in life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, the policy is such that the first time they did it, maybe, people, but consistently, they haven't shaken from it, not just that other office. So if every time, right, we are going to appoint a minister, part of the condition is that before you're appointed minister, right, we will know everything about your life. It doesn't change. it doesn't change, okay, what do you think is going to happen? After maybe 20 years, the only people who are available for work as ministers are people who are confident that by the time you go and look, there's nothing that's going to disqualify them. Not so? Do you get my point? So when you say we don't yet have a system to support the great idea that Olikoye Ransome-Kuti had for primary health care centers. We built 30,000 around the nation, but we built them without a system. So when we actually built 30,000 primary health centers, which are still enough, quite frankly, for the needs of Nigeria in terms of the count, but we didn't have a system. And what is that system? Who is going to work there? Who is going to govern them? How do you get drugs there? What are the standards and so on? So we have never practiced one day around for more than maybe 2 years anything consistent that would lead us to have a primary healthcare system. But do you think the primary healthcare system is going to be built on 5 years of practices? No. Day in, day out, no change. Unless improving, we have to do it. That is the challenge that we have in our country. You have to. Anyway, I have time constraints. Okay. And the last person.
Thank you very much, sir. So, if Nigeria were a private institution and you were the chairman of the board, what would you shut down immediately? What would you reform aggressively, and what would you protect at all costs, and why?
Well, let's start with this. Fortunately, Nigeria is not run by a board, because the chairman of the board is nowhere as powerful or has the authority of the president of Nigeria. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria allows the president of the country to do many things that the chairman of a board cannot do. Okay? But I understand your analogy. Okay? So I think you should have asked the question that somehow, if you were privileged to be president of this country, all right, tell me one thing you would do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. One thing I would do is well, I don't know how easy it will be, but if there was a thing like shock treatment that I would introduce, okay, I don't know whether the country would flip, but I don't know. But what I'll do is that my team, what you know as the presidency, will not look like anything Nigeria has ever seen before. So it will be a group of men and women who, if you offer them $10,000 or $100,000 to see me, they will just be looking at you. The way you saw you, and they will just be looking at you. If it is 7 o'clock and I haven't come down, they will break my door down. Say, "Oh God, you must come out too." If my meeting is scheduled for 8 a.m., the meeting will be 8 a.m. If somebody brings bad paper to me to sign, they will write on it, "This paper is bad, sir." That is what I will change. I don't know what will happen to the system if you do that, okay? But that is one thing that I will change. No, I didn't say cabinet. I said the one around me, the people who are wearing my clothes for me, the people who are opening villa for me, the people. No, that's not what I said. And I'm not saying that the people who are there. It's not about anything. I'm saying the qualities required to work with me. No compromise. Once I've done this one, what do you think will happen?
Spread out.
What do you think will happen?
Spread out.
When I have crack men and women, when somebody comes, you didn't prepare. You don't understand what I'm saying? You come to my staff, you came unprepared. You yourself, you are in your embarrassed state, you carry yourself back. So once I raise the bar around me, what do you think happens? I will see the best of Nigeria. It's not to say that our people are not smart too, or that the system doesn't work. So the system brings out the worst in us. If around you, just imagine that it spreads, and you go in the morning, you go to every governor in Nigeria, you go to their office, okay, and everything you see from the day you get to the gate, okay, is the best of your expectation. The thing that you never thought you would meet. You meet people, salute you, Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede. Oh, we're expecting you. You are number. Please come. That is your experience, left, right, and center. Do you think it's not possible? Of course, it's possible. But it's not like that's how it was on Monday. By Thursday, everybody is tired. It will be like that every minute, every second, everything. Do you know what will happen to Nigeria? Everywhere. That's the change we need. Thank you.
So, sir, please, let's do the vote of thanks before you Yes. So, Said, do us a vote of thanks.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I'm sure for our generation, we read about Solomon in the Bible, and for our kids and grandkids that are going to read about you are the Solomon of our time in terms of wealth of experience and wealth of material thing. It's very fantastic to be here today. It really shaped a lot of mindset about us, about all of us, about our intent to lead. Personally, I'm also interested in leading and contest for election, and the things that you said today really touched me and moved my intent. So thank you very much, sir. We'll continue to build our intent, our competence, and also be consistent in what we do. We're also grateful for giving us this time, and we hope that young people continue to have access to you. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of the class of Catalyst, thank you very much, sir.